Perfect. So thank you all for joining us today. We are using some new tech equipment. Actually, I need to go pop into the closet and accept that notice on the screen.
Lucky me. I get to be
You get that.
the second one to use this.
Yeah, for those of you that were here at Torah Study on Saturday, you saw this in action. You can see the camera whips around and follows voices, and we're working on, as you notice, the owls are gone. So for those of you that are frequent flyers in here, the owls have flown away, and we are now using new equipment. Rabbi Gamble's been working for about a year on this project, so we are really happy to have it in and ready to roll. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna do a screen share in Jane's presentation. If you have questions or comments along the way, the raise hand function or chiming in or dropping it in the chat all works. So I'm just gonna get the screen share started, and then we should be good to go. Can everyone at home see the screen share? Yes, Louise says thumbs up.
Excellent.
Okay. Without further ado, Jane Lazerow.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this is so much fun to be reading paintings. Reading paintings. When you look at an image, it is different from reading words. And I view reading these biblical paintings a little like Torah study. Each artist who made these paintings is an interpreter. They interpret the story. Either the interpretation comes from their own imagination. Often it comes from other artists' view of the same story. So I'm going to show you images where both has happened. And I just want to say that I want this to be a conversation. I want all of you to be answering my questions, to be asking questions. Hi, Ronnie. And so let's get started with the first image. Now let's see how
So you can use the arrow.
oh, the arrow, okay, the right.
Yes. There we go. Let's see. There you go.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to read you a few verses which you already know, but just to refresh your memory. It is not good for man to be alone. This is God speaking. I will make a fitting helper for him. Okay, so God cast a deep sleep upon the man, and while he slept, he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh at that spot. And God fashioned the rib that he had taken from the man into a woman. The serpent said to the woman, "You are not going to die." When the woman saw that the tree was good for eating, she took of its fruit and ate. And God made garments of skins for Adam and his wife and clothed them. So God drove the man out and stationed east of the Garden of Eden the cherubim plural. We'll be talking about that later on. And the fiery, ever-turning sword. Okay, the problem is that I can't see my whole.
Okay, let me minimize this and then you can.
Yeah, make these.
There you go.
Excellent, okay. Okay, what we have here first I want to tell you, all of the artists who painted these paintings were Christian artists, painted for churches or on commission, but they were from a Christian point of view, which makes a very big difference, as we will see when we go along. And the way they have changed the stories from the way we understand the stories will be evident to you. Okay, the first slide here is two paintings, one by Mazzolino, The Temptation of Adam and Eve. Where's my, here we go. That's this one. And Masaccio, The Expulsion from the Garden of Eden. So these are both in the Brancacci Chapel. Some of you may have been to Florence, to Santa Maria del Carmine, and seen these paintings there. So on first glance, when you look at the two different depictions of Adam and Eve, what's the first thing that you notice?
Well,
Yeah.
one on the right, they seem to be embarrassed.
Yes,
On the left, they're sort of open.
they're open. And what is happening on the one on the left. Are they doing anything?
Is that the serpent?
That's the serpent. Good.
Yes.
And what does the serpent have here?
The serpent looks like a female head.
Absolutely. A female head with a blonde head of hair, just like Eve's blonde head of hair.
Why do they always blame it on the women?
That is a perfect question because that is exactly right. You will see as we go along, the way the snake is always a woman. Well, once in a while, the snake has a baby head, which is weirder.
Jane, is it the same face? It's hard to tell.
On the woman and the
And
snake,
Eve.
it's close. I looked at that, and I can't blow it up any farther, but yes, I think it's close. It's a generic face. That's okay. The Mazzolino, the one on the left, is painted in the style at the end of the International Gothic period, where everything is calm and peaceful. The figures are somewhat stiff. They don't show emotion. As the figures on the right, okay, the one on the left, they are still in the garden. They
Right.
haven't eaten the fruit yet. Notice in Eve's hand, right there, she's holding a piece of the fruit.
Can't see it then.
It's
Looks like a
hard to
leaf.
see.
Looks like a
Actually,
leaf.
oh, you can't even see it well.
So she
there.
sliced it, they had a knife and they sliced it?
No, I can't either. It's on my computer I can, but
You think
it
of even the whole
jumps
apple.
around. Okay, so
Bite out of it.
anyway, she hasn't eaten it yet, or if she has, she hasn't given it to Adam yet. On the right, what do the people look like? Are they standing there looking stiff and calm?
No, they're moving.
No.
They're moving. They're very
Speaking-
emotional. Now, I want you to notice
Yes.
the
Yes.
way Eve is covering both her breasts and her pubic area. The pose is called it's patterned on this Greek statue of the pudic Venus. And it's in the Capitoline Museum, this statue, in the Capitoline Museum in Rome. This is the first time that you see Eve covering both parts of her body. Usually, she just covers her breast. So this is unusual in the way Masaccio has shown the people. Now, does this arched building look like the edge of the Garden of Eden? No, it doesn't. It is his interpretation. The black lines coming out are supposed to be like emanations from God. This is God's will. And then, remember I mentioned the cherubim or the cheruvim? Two angels with fiery swords blocking the passage so they can't go back into Eden. Well, what do we see here?
One.
Music going with it. This is one angel with a black sword. There's no fire involved. So, okay, and then the last thing I'm going to mention about this, look at where they're going. The landscape. It looks
Desert. It looks like a desert.
deserty, barren, nothing growing. And you're supposed to remember that Eden was lush and green.
Mm.
Okay, we'll go on to the next
I have a
slide.
thought.
Oh, wait, I'm so sorry. I had an extra slide. Now you can see the faces. And they're similar.
Yeah. It looks
And then you can see the emotion on both Adam and Eve in the Masaccio.
So the archway where they were
Yes.
leaving from, it could have been, this is on the spot interpretation, coming from confessing.
Oh, like a confessional.
Confessional.
Wow.
Good. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah,
Interesting.
okay. So, let's move
Who are
on.
they
Okay,
confessing to?
pardon?
There are only two people.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. There are only two.
Right. This is what I saw.
So the next slide is, this is a painting by Hieronymus Bosch. Does anybody know Bosch's work?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
good for you. It is very weird and wonderful work. He has, I will show you a close-up of the one on the right, but first, this one is called the Haywain Triptych. And the reason I'm showing it to you is that this slide on the left shows the 3 stages of the story in the Garden of Eden. So here we have on the left, a clearer picture of it. We see God up on high, the fallen angels, this is Christian stuff, turned into insects flying down. Below, we see God taking Eve out of Adam's rib, or making Eve out of Adam's rib. Then below that, oh yeah, we see the snake. I wonder if I have, yes, okay, here we go. So the creation of Eve, then the middle one, what do you see there?
Snake. The snake is still a woman
Love that little snake
With arms.
offering the apple.
The apple.
offering the apple to
There's the
Eve.
apple.
But she also has an apple in her left hand.
2 of you have seen that Eve has in her left hand also the fruit. You see the hand that's hanging down there.
Jane, can
Yeah,
you
this is sort of
expand
a-
it all with the 2
Yeah,
fingers when you
yeah.
go like that?
This computer doesn't do that. Wait, maybe I have, oh, no, that was, okay, no. I'm sorry, actually, no. Anyway, take my word for it. She's got it in her left hand. So who should she be offering the second fruit to?
Well, Adam.
Adam, of course. So it's important to the snake that they both eat this fruit.
Is Adam shorter than her?
It looks like it, doesn't it? Good point. Adam is shorter.
That has a message too.
It
Yes,
does.
right.
You know, everything, that's a good point. Everything you see on a painting, there is nothing by accident. It's all planned. And so notice the snake. The snake has, again, a woman's face. She has a tiny breast there, so you know it's a woman. And then on the right, we see them being expelled. The angel, the sword, you could say this sword right here has a bit of fiery stuff. It's unfortunate that the one on the screen is not bigger. I don't know if there's any way to do that, but anyway, so they are being expelled. But look at Adam. What's he doing here?
Is he
Who's he
waving
talking to?
goodbye?
What's that? Say it again?
Is he waving goodbye? Yeah.
Hello, Louise.
He is either explaining that it's not his fault. His wife told him to eat the fruit, and so he did. And then Eve will say, and we all know this, it's not my fault, the snake told me to do it. It's like passing the buck, and that's what these are doing. But I love his gesture. It's so,
It's casual.
Okay, so I also see from here, like a little cowering in fear of being smited.
oh, good, yes, yes. It, almost like recoiling a little.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
He looks overpowered.
Well,
Yes,
clearly.
he does.
And the
That's
angel-
right, the way he's bending.
And the angel looks really way bigger than he.
Right.
Yes, they are small people, and in fact, that's one way that Bosch paints. You'll see that his figures are always small and skinny. So I just wanted to show you the right-hand wing of this triptych. This is supposed to be hell. where these people are gonna go. Instead of, as it's written in the Torah, they're expelled into a very arid land where Adam is gonna have to scratch the land to get food for them, and Eve is gonna suffer pangs in childbirth. Here,
And all women.
this is Bosch. This is Bosch. If any of you come to the Timken Museum, where I'm a docent twice a month, you will see we have a painting that has a whole section of this kind of imagery taken from Bosch. So, okay, let's move on.
Wait,
Wait.
at the bottom picture,
Yeah,
it looks like Adam in the same position he was in the center picture.
good, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Leaning, but he's got, in this case, he has a dog or some kind of a canine attacking him. You'll see on his leg.
I can't.
Oh, and then
with animals. Make it out of.
And I mean, there are a lot of humans, because the Christian belief is that that this is where original sin began, and the original sin was fornication. And so they were supposed to have been doing that in Eden, not that it's ever
Animals.
written that
Were
way.
they fornicating with animals?
No, they were not. I don't know whether they are in this picture,
The
but
original sin wasn't eating the apple?
to us, it's the disobedience, absolutely. But there are many different interpretations in Christianity, just as when you read the Talmud here, the rabbis have many different interpretations of our stories. So some believe that original sin, every time a baby is born, just the fact that it's born, it means that the parents had sex, and that brings original sin to the baby. And then some believe that baptism wipes it away, and others believe it doesn't, and it never goes away, and human beings have this sin all the time. Wait, there we go. Okay, let's move on, because we have a lot of slides. You may have recognized this picture, because some of you may have been in the Sistine Chapel in Rome. The chapel where Pope Sixtus commissioned Michelangelo to paint the ceiling. Here's a blow up of that image. So how does this look different from what we've just seen?
Well, Adam has both hands up in
On the tree.
defensive sort of,
And doesn't it look like he's reaching for a fruit right in front of the snake's face?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
She is.
he is.
he is.
Yes, Stan.
But
Yes.
They're all very muscular, like they belong to 24-hour gym.
Always
Mike-
very muscular.
And do you know why that is?
because
Michelangelo.
male.
Exactly. All his models were male models.
Oh.
I mean, he was interested in men, and then when he was making a woman, he just put breasts on.
More than interested.
You know what?
Yeah.
But
I haven't seen this before, okay, I haven't. But her head is awfully close to his penis.
right.
I noticed that.
Or,
I noticed that too. I think nobody can avoid looking at
Good,
that.
Ronnie.
There's nothing to do in it.
But
they
no,
didn't
wait.
want to fornicate, so
Long
they
hair.
put
But it's also not as clear that this snake
Oh, there's
is a
the
woman.
breast.
So clear that the snake is a woman.
You know,
And see, and I didn't
if
see
it weren't
that at
for
the
the
beginning.
breasts, you'd think it was a man.
Exactly.
Right, yeah, so. I
Well, but
just-
Eve also, if you didn't see her head, look at her and breast, look at her body. I mean, she's been at the gym
That
24
arm.
hours a day.
And
Okay,
the Eve on the right of
Yeah.
the, as they're being expelled, her head does not seem to be attached to her body.
No, she's cowering.
Yes,
And-
she is.
And as you're talking about it, Louise, look at the difference in age between the couple out of Eden, where they're
Yeah.
cowering, and where they are in the Garden of Eden on the left.
Sure.
What looks different?
Well, they
Oh.
look younger on the left.
Yes, they do.
And really haggard on the right.
And haggard with the one
Haggard on the right, absolutely. That's really important. That is one of the points of this, that once they're out of this young Garden of Eden, they start aging. Time starts. Time starts
Ooh.
when they leave the garden.
They were condemned to die.
They are
That's
condemned to die,
That's
absolutely.
one of the things that God condemned them to, is that they would have to work. She would bear children in pain, and they would grow old and die.
Exactly, and
Eden, everything lived forever.
exactly, and it was important that they be expelled because God said, if they stay, they will eat of the fruit of life, from the tree of life, and that means they will live forever. So it was important that they get out of there. And the snake was wrong. When the snake said, "You will not die," the snake was lying.
So
It just meant you wouldn't die right now, you'll die. Yes, Ronnie?
the leaves look like fig leaves.
Good point. And in fact, those leaves are fig leaves, and we'll see in later images that there are fig leaves in the garden, and then, well, I'll show you, and you'll see in the next slide, and I'll mention it. Okay, let's see if I, oh, all right. I love all this stuff. Okay, this is Albrecht Dürer, who was a German artist, who was an engraver. He did many, many wonderful engravings. So we have here Adam and Eve that he did in 1504, and then the expulsion from paradise in 1510. So let's look at first Adam and Eve in the garden. And what do you see that is different from what we've seen before?
The snake has a snake head.
And the snake has a snake head. And what's in its mouth?
The fruit.
The fruit.
I don't see
don't
snake.
see a snake
I
at
don't
all.
see the
The
snake.
It's
snake
wrapped
is,
around the tree on the right.
Look at where
Snake is
Eve's
over a
hand is
branch.
going
Oh,
up, her
okay.
right hand,
branch.
where it ends.
Okay, yes.
Oh, thank you. I forgot I have the pointer. Here it is.
Here.
Oh, thank
There,
you.
okay.
I need that. Okay, and you notice right here, my thing is on a piece of fruit that
Small.
is,
blow it up.
actually, you don't know whether Eve has it in her hand and the snake is taking it and gonna offer it to Adam, because what does Eve have in her left hand?
She's hiding another fruit.
She's hiding the fruit there.
Well,
Yeah,
I think I see that they are both covered up genitalia.
yes, yes,
And-
With fig leaves.
with
Right,
fig leaves.
Exactly, but that I haven't
Actually,
seen in the
Adam's
other
is-
ones.
No, although in the Bosch, I could go back.
Yeah, their hands are covered. Well,
Their
that's
hand-
Their hands, but this
Right.
was,
No.
Oh, you, okay.
also on the one on the left, the 1504, lots of animals and birds all around.
Excellent point. Okay, and that's something I want to tell you, that this is the peaceable kingdom. This is how the Garden of Eden was before before the disobedience, before they took the fruit. The animal, notice the cat and the mouse. And the actually, this is an ox and a moose, maybe a moose, but everybody, oh, and a rabbit.
Right. There's a parrot up top.
Oh, the parrot. We're going to talk about the parrot. I'll tell you now. Parrot, I mean, it will figure in other paintings. The parrot is a symbol for paradise. And at this time, the new world is being explored and settled. And parrots did not exist in Europe at this time. They were strictly New World birds, probably South America. I don't know whether.
Yeah, parrots, I think, started there.
So anytime you see a parrot in one of these images, they're talking about paradise. You're not going to see the parrot in the expulsion paintings. unless it's still showing you the garden. Okay, let's talk about the different,
I
yeah.
have a little question.
Yeah.
So the woman has long hair and the man has short hair and it's clean shaven. I was wondering, I guess it's the kind of standard that they, I don't know if they had, how did they cut their hair?
The knife.
That's only one of the many questions you can ask about, about how things went in paradise. in
Another another question I had was, in 1504, Dürer was German, correct?
Correct.
And if parrots were from, say, South America, but certainly not Europe,
Yeah.
1504 is kind of early for that kind of travel. I mean, it did happen, obviously, but
Wait 12 years.
It's
How
only
did-
12 years, and they may not have made many inroads into South America at that point. I can't remember who the explorers were who went down to
yeah,
South.
Parrots existed in Mexico.
In Mexico, okay.
Yeah,
So
and probably Cuba as well.
if they got to Cuba, we don't know. I don't know.
okay, there was a
1504,
disconnect
they would've-
from my mind.
Okay, let's talk about the one on the right. Notice again the youthfulness of the couple on the left. Well, how do they look on the right?
Nice butts.
Yes, right, that's what I saw too, right?
What's that?
Nice butts.
Nice butts. Yeah, I mean, check it out.
No, I mean the face.
And then look at the angel with the sword. Again, there's no fire and there's just one angel.
That's an angel.
And the angel has lots of clothing on.
Oh, no.
The angel is covered in clothing. Oh, and I'm
Armor.
glad you said clothing,
Find the
because
odds
remember,
of
in our story, God
one.
made, took skins and made clothes for Adam and Eve, and then God expelled them from the garden. In none of these, well, you'll see there's one at the end where they are,
So if it was a Jewish artist, they would have had clothes.
they might have. Again, it's up to the discretion of the artist. They could decide for themselves. Oh, all right, let me
Can you go
just,
back?
oh, yeah, okay.
And the one on the right, Adam looks the most feminine
Yeah.
so far.
Oh, that's
of
interesting, yeah.
The ones that you've shown.
Yes, and do you suppose it's because of his fear? He's become emasculated by that fear?
He's got a beard.
He's got a beard?
He's got a beard, yeah.
Oh,
right.
well, there goes my
But,
eye exam.
no, you're right, his face, I think the fearful face would speak more. I
Okay.
hate to say that, but, okay, I just wanted to show you his pose. This brings up his pose comes from the Belvedere Apollo.
Uh-huh.
And these are engravings, folks. And if you can picture how an engraving is done, it's done on a metal plate with a burin. And then, so he does the image on the metal plate, then he puts it down on a press, puts the paper on top, and runs it through the press, and the image that comes out is the mirror image of what he drew.
Right.
So that's why this pose is the opposite of this. Actually, this Apollo had a bow in his hand, and he's just let the arrow go. Anyway, that's the pose. And then some have suggested that Eve's pose, which is a contrapposto pose, that is, one part of her body's going one way and the legs are going the other, sort of, is somewhat like Botticelli's Birth of Venus. They're similar. Okay, now we're on to the next. This is, I'm just show you briefly, this is an image by Raphael. Again, notice Adam is seated, Eve is standing, and let's move on to what has happened. Raphael's painting, The Fall of Man, was done in, say, 1510, in somewhere between 08 and 11. Titian painted it with a seated Adam in 1550. Then Rubens, again, the same pose in 1628 or 29. So, let's see, I think I have all three together. Yes. Now, let's look at the differences here. First, what about the head of the snake?
Oh, man.
Can't see.
Can you believe what
And they-
Titian and Rubens did?
Booty.
My glasses checked out.
They're pootsie. They're like babies or like little cherubs.
Uh-huh,
Wow.
right.
Raphael's is the face of a woman.
Right.
Keep
Straight
saying.
on. You have an angle.
But then look at these two. Don't they look so much the same?
Except the Rubens, the tree is bending.
The tree is bending to the right. That's right. What else?
There's a little fiery in the Rubens, something I can't distinguish, red.
Over here.
No, on above Adam's
Ah.
shoulder.
Parrot.
That's the parrot.
Oh,
That
well,
is the
okay.
parrot. It's a little hard to see. I'm just sorry that the one on the big screen isn't clearer.
Look, I can't even see.
I mean, on this, but now actually the parrot's beak, it blends in with the leaves behind it, so it's a little hard to tell.
No,
It's the brightest color of them,
Yes,
the whole picture.
I mean, the screen on the monitors is very saturated color.
Mm.
Okay, so what does it look like Adam is doing here? Is he grabbing her breast?
Oh,
Yeah.
I think he's just holding,
Pushing her
He's
away.
trying to
Pushing
push
her
her back,
away.
hold her away, that's right. Saying, don't do this, don't,
Right, right.
but she's doing it. And,
The
oh,
two,
and then the snake, you look at this baby and you think, wait, there's nothing coiled around the tree as usual. Where's the end of the snake? Here it is.
oh.
Looks like a branch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
There's the snake's tail.
interesting. And the,
So-
the, the branches of the tree in this middle one and right are curving like a
Oh,
snake.
exactly, blaming it on the woman.
Adam is saying, no, we shouldn't do this.
Right.
The woman is saying, oh, yes, it's gonna be a
The
good
snake-
thing to do.
The snake is giving her the fruit.
Yeah.
She's believing the snake.
Yeah,
Adam, but you remember that
that's part of blaming original sin
on the woman, and
and part of the misogyny which was rampant in Europe
absolutely right,
and in the Catholic Church.
exactly.
I'm reading a very interesting book. It's called The Biography of Alison of Bath, the wife of Bath. And one of the things this book goes into in detail is how misogynistic the literature of the 1300s, 1400s, and 1500s was.
Absolutely. There's no
Fine.
question. Okay, here is one that I wanted to show you that has three parts of the story in it by an artist who I had never heard of. This is there. I think I have it now. This is an artist I'd never heard of, Isaac van Oosten. He was Flemish, came from Antwerp, and creation of Adam and Eve with temptation and original sin in the background. And this is 1650, and it's oil on copper. He was a landscape artist who, in a lot of his paintings, he did the landscape and other artists did what's called the staffage, the little people that gave scale to the painting to show you how large the trees were. I'm not sure whether in this painting, whether he painted the figures or someone else did, but it doesn't matter. Here we have the stories. We have the creation of Adam, Eve being made out of the rib of Adam, and then way in the background, we have the taking of the fruit. But I wanted to show you this because of the peaceable kingdom idea.
Yeah.
Notice the animals, the pairs of animals, everybody's getting along. But those of you who are looking at this, tell me what this is. I cannot figure out.
Looks maybe a peacock?
No.
or a tiny dinosaur.
It looks like a
Peacock and a
dinosaur,
peahen.
that's what I thought.
A peacock and a peahen.
A reptile?
Where do you,
it's
John,
behind the-
whoever said peacock first, that's right, this is the tail.
The big.
Right.
Oh.
I said
Yeah.
peacock.
Now,
Very good.
Oh,
I thought it was another
yes.
cat below.
Thank you. I mean, I love it when a painting.
Somebody else came up with the
Yeah, someone
peacock.
said it first, someone online, I don't know who you were, but that's terrific. I love it when a painting is hard to read. And it takes me, I mean, there are times that I look at, and I look and look and look and cannot figure out what I'm looking at.
One of the things that strikes me,
But I love the feeling when you get an insight or you figure things out.
Yes,
Yes. Yeah.
it's terrific.
one
Yes,
of the
John.
Isn't there a snake
strikes me,
in the lower right hand?
original God who's making Adam is clothed in the garments of Saint Jerome.
Exactly. This is a Christian painter, and it will be a him, interpretation of God. And you notice God has
Halo?
a halo. Oh, and I just wanted to point out one other thing. What do you see down here?
That's a snake.
That is a snake. And it's so interesting that tells you that Adam is created and the snake is right there with him. It's like the snake, the evil impulse was there from the beginning. Whether we believe that or not is not. Oh, okay. We're now going to look at William Blake, and I am first going to read to you Tiger, tiger, burning bright, in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? Does anyone recognize that poem?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I read it in school. It's The Tiger by William Blake. And we think of William Blake as a poet. William Blake was also a painter, an engraver. He did many things. So this is a totally different image than we've been looking at, isn't it? What looks different?
Oh, Adam's lying down.
Oh,
Well-
Adam is lying down.
Right, but the snake, look at the
The snake.
the
snake's
vastness
tail.
of the snake. My goodness,
Yeah.
And Eve
it's
is
all
hot.
encompassing.
And Eve is hot. She looks like Barbie to me.
She looks triumphant here. She's.
Yeah,
America.
Yes,
Uh-huh. Okay.
but then,
Yeah.
does this look like a snake?
No.
It's a dragon.
It looks like a dragon. And what's in its mouth? It's very hard to see because it's small, but it is a tiny branch with fruit. So, okay, you've noted that this incredible snake snakes around,
Yeah.
The pretzel.
and Eileen said, "Oh, look, it's the infinity sign."
I thought it was a pretzel.
Ah,
It is, absolutely. And then Louise, you pointed out that Adam is lying on the ground here. I didn't even see him when I first looked at this.
Yeah. And he looks like he's sleeping.
He looks like he's sleeping. Here's a
Yeah.
close-up.
So is this the creation of Eve then?
Could be.
I don't know, because she's not, let's go back. She's not coming out of being made out of his
Right.
rib. There's no image of
He's
God.
asleep.
He's asleep, but that's a good point. It could indicate that he's still asleep and that God has disappeared, but there she is. I hadn't thought of that. Also, look at the, no, I want to go back. The coils of the tree.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's like, in the previous images, the snake wrapped around the tree. In this case, it isn't. But, okay, here's the important one. what do you see here?
I don't know.
Looks like he's holding on to
shovel?
something.
A shovel.
Yeah.
A
A
shovel.
shovel. And why
Oh.
would Adam be holding a shovel?
Where's the shovel?
The shovel is used for
His
digging.
left hand.
Spade and a wooden handle.
Say that again?
A shovel is used for digging.
For digging, and why would Adam have something for digging? What did God
He's
sentence him
condemned
to?
Hard labor, hard labor.
Work the earth.
Exactly, hard labor, working the earth to get food for them. So he's got to take this out of Eden with him.
It also looks like Adam, the bottom half of his body is turned on its side. You can see what looks like his right thigh and leg.
Exactly.
The top half of his body is more flat.
And he's lying on his left leg.
Yeah, right.
So his body is twisted, that's right.
That's just to hide his parts.
Exactly right, that's exactly what I thought, is just to
Yeah.
hide his parts.
And if
No
you
problem
look-
with hers, I mean.
Right.
Well, she's only a woman.
Only a woman. But I find this to be quite a knockout image.
But I'm not
So
sure he's on his left side. What is? Oh, that's the side of his body,
Yes,
his arm.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Right.
It's
And
a
if-
little hard to
Yeah.
read.
And if you look at the whole picture again, to me, what seemed was the very darkness of the sun,
Yes,
Yeah.
look at that.
very foreboding looking.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
almost like it's an eclipse.
Like,
Yes,
oh, it
yes,
looks like an eclipse.
right.
And
You just get the
eclipses were
rim.
regarded as omens of very
Right.
bad things still in
Yes.
1500.
Yeah,
And the waterfall,
1800.
I love that. I mean, interpretation
oh, I
is,
love art, I do too.
it's just the best.
hey Renee,
Uh,
how about the waterfall?
I spent a lot of time enlarging that water to see if there was anything happening, and there isn't. But it could foreshadow the flood.
It could, and water is also a symbol of life, as well as.
Water is a symbol of life, absolutely.
And weren't there 4 rivers that flow out of Eden?
Yes, Tigris and Euphrates were 2, and then the Nishon and the Pishon or something,
Yeah.
the other 2. Okay, let's keep moving because we have a lot of slides. Okay, this is Gustave Doré, who did a lot of biblical engravings. Adam and Eve driven out of Eden, and this is the only time, any slide I could find, where they have clothes on. And so I was showing these to Bert, and he said, well, Jane, you know why they have clothes on? I said, well, God provided them clothes. He said, well, yeah, but why else? He said, it was the reign of Queen Victoria. Right, so their body parts had to be covered up.
How do you do that?
A prudish time.
Do it modestly.
I said
I-
naked, you couldn't paint naked people.
Oh,
And, yeah, the angel is a classic angel, but none of them does angels the way I would have imagined them as cherubim, more than one. I did a painting of this story myself, a lot of paintings of this story, and when I made the angel, it was, never mind. I think this is the last one of Adam and Eve that we have. This is by Susan Valadon in the early 20th century. She this is a self-portrait, and her husband, who is 20 years younger than she painted herself looking much younger than she was. And then notice, I mean, when you do your own portrait, you can do whatever you like.
fix a lot of things, you know.
So, but notice his hand on her wrist, what's happening there?
Is he trying to?
He's either holding it back or guiding it.
He's
To
knocking,
me, it looks like he's pushing it away.
pushing it away,
Right,
right,
knocking
don't
it
do
out.
this, he's saying.
Mhm.
And
Or
she
helping her.
felt that her relationship with him, where he was like 20 years younger than she, was sin enough. I mean, they didn't have to do, I mean, she felt self-conscious about that relationship. That was her problem. Anyway, okay, now we're getting into something entirely different. And I want to tell you about Nicolas Poussin, French artist, who did a series of paintings toward the end of his life that are landscapes that have biblical, each one has a biblical subject. And you'll see spring, the earthly paradise, summer will be Ruth and Boaz, autumn, the grapes from Canaan, and winter, the deluge or the flood.
1660, is that Louis the 14th?
1660, wait a minute. Louis, that seems early for Louis the 14th. Lisa, you're the historian. 1660
The 14th, so the revolution was.
was 1779,
Yeah,
1789.
It's a good guess.
Yeah, okay, it could be, it could be.
That's
It's
a
not
bit early.
It's not relevant to the art. Okay, here are the 4 paintings. You'll notice spring, and this is Adam and Eve. We're gonna have enlargements. This is summer, Ruth and Boaz. This is autumn, the spies bringing back the big bunch of grapes. And winter, the deluge, or the flood. Okay. Here we have spring. Now, when you first look at this, does it not look just like a landscape painting with some people in it? Yeah.
In the upper cloud.
In the upper cloud, what do you see?
God.
God.
That's God looking down on this.
There's a fruit tree in the center.
There's a fruit tree. Let's see if we have an enlargement, sort of.
They had the cloud even back then.
Oops, sorry. No, wait. Nope. Just a minute. I need to go back. There.
A
Yes,
lot of fruit on the tree for spring.
good point. Good point. There is. But the disobedience hasn't happened yet. What's Eve doing here?
He's pointing to the fruit. Oh,
She's
look
pointing-
at all the fruit.
She's trying to tell Adam that it's okay. We can eat this. But look at the way this is painted, the composition. Look at the configuration of arms and legs and body. I mean, with these negative spaces in between. This is
Very
just
dramatic.
wonderful.
Very
Wonderful,
dramatic.
dramatic painting. Let's go back for a minute so you can see the whole thing. This is, it's called spring, and the other part that Poussin is doing is making the times of day. He does spring, summer, winter, autumn, and morning, noon, morning, afternoon, evening, and night. So this is morning, and you see a little bit of morning light coming through these trees. Otherwise, it's pretty dark, and it's pretty, let's say, monotone. There isn't much variety in the color of the green. But notice the composition. If your eye starts up here at the cloud and the diagonal coming down and then around them and then up and around, there's a lot that your eye can do in this.
I have a couple of questions on that one, if we can
Yeah.
go back to it for a sec.
Back to the,
It looks, oops,
wait a minute.
it looks like a fence or a road behind them to the right.
Oh, good point, right
What is
here.
that? Up high, a little higher?
Oh, this is water.
And above that, there's another straight line going across, yeah.
And okay, that, I'm glad you pointed that out because he was very methodical in the way he made his compositions. He made the horizontals and the verticals are very balanced in his work. So you see, you pointed out the like a road, there's another possibility of road with the water, then a separation between the bushes here, and then you have the verticals of the trees.
But would there, if it's paradise, there wouldn't have been roads, and I'm also wondering if I see what looks like a little mountain up above where you're.
Yes,
above-
that's definitely a mountain.
It looks kind of,
But if you remember, the garden was the Garden of Eden. Eden was a place. Eden was not the garden. It was a garden in the world of Eden, or in the territory of Eden. And I'm just, giving you possibilities. And the mountain, you can't be too literal, let's say.
and the cloud is the weirdest looking cloud I've ever
Right.
seen. It's like a
Don't be so
little
literal.
elephant.
It is. That's true. Let's see if, yes, there it is, enlarged.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's a missing puzzle piece.
Yeah, it does.
Missing the blue. All right, let's keep moving. Okay, this is Summer, or Ruth and Boaz, and you know the story of Ruth and Boaz?
Yep.
Where Naomi's 2 sons died and his 2 daughters-in-law, she said to them, go back to your families, and one daughter-in-law did, but Ruth said, no,
I'll stay with you.
wherever you go, I will go, and your people will be my people. And so here she is, she's impoverished, she has no one to support her, Naomi can't support her. So she's gleaning, as we've just read in the Torah portion a few weeks ago, the edges of the field, and you can see down here a little sheaf of wheat that she has gleaned, and she is begging Boaz that she should be able to continue doing this. Boaz is pointing to his servant, saying, it's fine, let her do it. So again, remember I told you he balances the horizontals and the verticals, and then you see, the detail in the background of these, this like a ruined castle or little town up here with a bridge, and then further down there's more, and then here's another little city, and again the strange clouds. See, I have a blow up of this, of 2 of them. So here they are.
That's weird.
So the women are reaping the wheat. Here's the servant. This guy is playing a bagpipe.
Bagpipe.
And this, I wonder if
Horses.
They look like horses.
they are, it's a team of 5 horses, and that image, I should have gotten you, the place where he found that image of those horses was from the Arch of Titus, where the horses are lined up that way. And he, you figure, is either plowing the field or doing something. You see his whip.
Maybe he's threshing.
He's threshing, thank you, that's the word. And then, wait to go back.
The servant has one leg?
No, you can, the leg is in shadow behind him.
Oh,
But over here, okay, here's a guy drinking wine from a wine skin. Here are women baking bread. They brought their portable oven out with them, and they're baking bread. So it's a whole thing going on. All right, that's summer. Here's autumn. And what do you see here?
grapes.
Those are the,
Grapes.
The grapes, and you remember the story.
right,
Um,
spies.
Moses sent the spies to spy the land of Canaan and bring back samples of what grows there.
Look at the size of those grapes.
Look at the size of the grapes, and then something, I had seen this painting, I've actually seen it, it's at the Louvre, I've seen it a couple of times, and I hadn't even noticed, but look down here, he's carrying a branch with apples, or maybe no, I think they're apples, not oranges. They're gigantic. They're like
They look like
soccer
melons.
balls.
But
Might
look
be
in the tree.
pomegranates.
Look in the tree, okay.
Look in the tree. Looks like a person.
Yeah.
She's picking fruit, let's see
Right, but
if I have, oh yeah, here she is over here.
there, okay, yep.
And she has a little basket here where she's gonna put the fruit.
But that fruit looks smaller.
This is like the fruit on the tree in the garden.
Right.
And I think there is that echo. Notice,
Sure.
I mean, I made the enlargement so you could see the spies, but look at the guy in the background fishing. There's water. So, okay, but there's more to show you about this. This is really cool. Okay, this is an engraving by a Flemish artist named Hieronymus Wierix from 1607. It's an allegorical engraving. In the bottom of that engraving, down here,
Wow.
look at that. That is where Poussin got the image. Remember, I told you that artists either just make it up from their head or they
Borrow
see
it.
what other artists have done previously. So, okay, there's that. Then, out of the grapes are, no, come back. Out of the grapes are growing Jesus. Please, no. You don't want me to show Jesus. Okay. Anyway, Jesus is growing out of the grapes because you may remember that in communion, they drink the wine and eat the wafer, the host,
right.
which is the blood and body of Jesus. So that's that. But then look at what there is here.
right.
Right, okay, that's.
Oh.
A woman.
So how does that relate to our story? Out of the grapes comes Eve picking the fruit. I mean, it could be.
That's funny.
I mean, there are these possibilities. And I mean, now that this is enlarged, look at this.
I think it's hard to really tell the
Yeah.
sex of that.
Yeah, I
What
thought
you're-
it was a man.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, actually, the black, I think, is covering her hair in the back. It's like a snood covering her hair. I looked at it and thought, wait a minute, what is this business with her face
But also
being-
the draping is longer than in the men's.
Oh,
No, up in the tree,
oh, yes,
the draping is longer.
yes, it's a skirt. I mean, that's right. This is a woman.
And her back is to us. She's facing
back-
the fruit.
Exactly. She's
That's her
leaning,
back?
has one hand on the,
Right, yeah.
and then one hand is picking fruit.
Mm-hmm.
And here's her basket to put the fruit in.
Okay, now I get it.
Can you see it now? Yeah, it's a little hard to tell. Oh my goodness, it's so saturated. Okay, on to winter. Now, does this look like this is the deluge. Does this look like what you imagined the flood to look like? Oh my gosh.
No.
No,
No, what looks different than your imagination?
no ark,
No what?
no ark. There's a little bitty boat there, but certainly not what we think of as an
Okay.
ark 40 cubits by 80 cubits or whatever it is.
Okay, look at this. This is the ark.
That's the ark.
That's the ark. These are
Okay.
little people who are gonna drown because they didn't get on the ark. But this is the ark, and then, okay, there's so many things to say.
Snake there?
Yeah,
The serpent.
right.
There was no serpent in the first one of these paintings, in the Adam and Eve. So to round it out, he puts the serpent here, and that, you wonder why this serpent is gonna die also. There were surely 2 serpents on the ark, one of every creature went
Okay.
onto the ark.
2 of every
So
creature.
let me tell you,
Two.
two, I said 1, I meant 2. I have to tell you a really cool thing I discovered. The word for ark in Hebrew is teva, Tevah.
It's like nature.
Keep that word in your mind when we talk about Moses in a basket on the Nile,
Ah,
because that is a teva also. Same word in the Torah. in
And it
Hebrew.
Wow.
sounds like the word for nature.
The word for nature?
Nature is teva, but I don't know if it's spelled differently.
I think it's spelled differently. Okay, let's continue with this. Here is a couple, the woman trying to save her child by handing it up to her husband up there. We have a guy on a plank, or
Mhm.
holding on, trying to save himself.
Float,
This
yeah.
guy's, I mean,
Trying to get
there's
in the boat.
definitely desperation in this. This is the whole thing. I want to tell you that this painting of all the four provoked enormous criticism and controversy among the art critics in Paris when he showed this painting. I mean,
Why?
people talked about this forever.
What was controversial?
It was such a different view of the ark and the flood. Always in the past, artists had painted water everywhere and the ark floating on the water, or they painted Mount Ararat and the ark on it with water drying up. Or in the beginning, they painted the ark with people and animals walking up the gangplank to get into it. This
Right,
was much more emotional.
This
right.
is what happened to those left behind.
Exactly.
This is a
This, see,
horrible
this
depiction
looks
of
more
what
realistic.
I couldn't believe Noah,
Right.
you know.
And what was that online?
This looks more realistic.
It does. Look, what might have happened, exactly. I mean, not only these poor people who we see in the foreground, but this whole group of people in the background. This is what happened. These are the people that God wanted to destroy.
It's really reminiscent of what's going on in the world today with all the flooding.
Oh my goodness.
With all the suffering and struggling to survive.
And the floods from all
Yeah.
the storms.
From climate change, absolutely. Okay,
This shows empathy for ones that were forgotten in previous paintings,
very
Yeah.
good. Yes,
were neglected.
yes. Okay.
It's the idea that God would wipe out all of humankind is not exactly a picture of a kind, loving, generous.
Have you noticed?
God.
It's troubled me always.
Yeah, I mean,
And it's troubling. We have to deal with this.
Compassionate.
Okay, let's move on. A certain man of the house of Levi went and married a Levite woman. The woman conceived and bore a son, and when she saw how beautiful he was, she hid him for 3 months. When she could hide him no longer, she got a wicker basket for him and caulked it with bitumen and pitch. Remember those words. She put the child into it and placed it among the reeds by the bank of the Nile. And his sister stationed herself at a distance to learn what would befall him. The daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe in the Nile, while her maidens walked along the Nile. She spied the basket among the reeds and sent her slave girl to fetch it. When she opened it, she saw that it was a child, a boy, crying. She took pity on it and said, "This must be a Hebrew child." Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and get you a Hebrew nurse to suckle the child for you?" And Pharaoh's daughter answered, "Yes." Okay, here we are. Now, some of you may have attended the talk I gave on early Jewish art a couple of years ago, 3 years ago or so, and you might have seen this image then. This is Moses found in the river, and this was from the Dura Europos synagogue, which dates from the mid-3rd century, 244 to 253. Dura Europos was a garrison town, a Roman garrison town on the edge of Syria. And it was a town where people lived pretty much in harmony, Jews, some Greeks, Romans, Christians. So this synagogue was extraordinary in that the walls were covered with paintings. These are not frescoes, this is wall painting. So, and that paint stayed on those walls for centuries. Luckily, all of the images, or most of them, were removed and taken to the museum either in Egypt or Syria, where they were saved because that synagogue has been destroyed. Anyway, let's talk about what this image is. Tell me what you see here, anybody? You see Moses?
Oh, there's Timbals. Are they Timbals?
Yeah, there's two Moseses, right? Two babies.
Timbals.
Oh, actually, let me give you a bigger image of it. Here we go.
Are those
Well,
Timbals?
Are these?
Yeah.
I'll get to that. I'll tell you. And I absolutely did not know what those objects were. It was a complete puzzle to me. So I did a lot of research, and I'll tell you in a minute what they are. But
And
first,
there's somebody holding what looks like a small box.
Yeah.
Not down there. Right above,
oh, this.
yes.
Okay, these, all right, I'll tell you now, since you're questioning this. These are objects that were brought in Greek times, in Greek mythology. Nymphs would bring to the birth of a divine person, a divine man. They would bring gifts, and that's what these are. It's just amazing. These women are dressed in Greek and or Roman, I guess more Roman clothing. Remember, this was painted in a Roman garrison town. And you know that when Jews live in a place, we take on the aspects of the surrounding culture. We don't, most of us don't wall ourselves off. We become Americans. We're not whatever. So, okay,
It looks to me as if the woman on the left is bringing wine. The one in the middle has a beehive for honey, and it looks to me like the one on the right probably has bread.
that's a nice interpretation, but
Which is very Jewish.
it's very Jewish, but this is about the birth of Moses. This is baby Moses. And this is supposedly the basket that his mother put him in the bulrushes down here on the Nile. So what does this look like? Does this look like a basket?
No, it looks like a building.
Looks like a
A
church.
building,
Looks
Looks like a church.
a temple,
Looks like a temple.
an ark, for instance.
Right.
Good job. And remember what I told you the word for the ark, Noah's
Teva.
ark was?
Teva.
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 And this is the word for this. In fact, when you read the story in Hebrew, the word for that basket is teva. So there is a connection. But, oh, I love that. The connection between all of humanity and all of life being saved in the ark and
Oh, that's
Moses
good.
being saved in his little ark. So he is the seed of the Jewish people. And God provided the seed for life back in the time of Noah. So there is that. And then there was, in something I read, a connection, it's a very tenuous one, with the Ark of the Covenant, which is in the Mishkan in the desert tabernacle. Then I read it somewhere and then I couldn't find it again. And so I hunted and talked to my learned friend in Berkeley, and she and I were figuring this out. In fact, that's the Aron HaKodesh is what the ark in the Mishkan is called. But in the Sephardic tradition, there is a connection with Teva. I mean, the word itself isn't used, but it's alluded to. So again, there are these connections all through the Torah that are very exciting when you can uncover them. So let's talk about what's actually happening here. This is read from right to left. This is Miriam, and she's the midwife, and Pharaoh has declared that all Jewish baby boys are to be thrown in the Nile. So if she's a midwife, she's saved Moses. And then we go down to, let's see, this is Pharaoh's daughter. Pharaoh's daughter's bringing two items to the birth of a divine man. She doesn't realize it, but that's what she has. So, okay, then we have her maidservant who goes into the river to retrieve the baby. Here's Miriam again. We see the same clothing. That indicates Miriam. And Miriam is handing the baby to his mother, Yocheved. That's Moses and Miriam's mother. So the whole story is right there for us. It's, I think, really an extraordinary thing. So let's go on and look at other images of the way artists have painted the story of Moses. This one is The Finding of Moses from 1581 or 2 by Paolo Veronese, who was a very well-known and well-respected artist. Here the story is recast in an Italianate city, and the figures are dressed according to contemporary fashion, just as the previous one, that was contemporary fashion at the time in the mid-3rd century CE. So let's look at this close up. This is Pharaoh's daughter.
She has to go on a diet.
What's that?
I said she should go on a diet.
It's her clothing. Should tell you that. It just makes me look that way. Here is, we assume this is Miriam. Oh no, this is her servant who has taken the baby from the basket held by a black servant, which is unusual. In painting, there are occasions where you see black people, but very rarely. You must come to the Timken. We have a gigantic painting by Kehinde Wiley, who you may or may not have heard of, but he is a fabulous black artist who does a fabulous, huge black painting adjacent to our Rembrandt painting. And anyway, so here's the baby being shown to Pharaoh's daughter. We have a small person here, someone who knows. Oh, and he's holding a recorder in his hand. So he's probably the court jester.
Or a court musician.
Or the court musician, right. And then there's a whole Italianate town over here with a bridge. Okay, let's move on. Here's another one by, I wanted to show you this because it's by Orazio Gentileschi. You may have heard of Artemisia Gentileschi, one of the few successful women artists of the late 15th, early 16th century. No, 17th, 16th and 17th century. This is a similar thing with contemporary clothing and the servant showing the baby to.
And in each one, she has a crown.
Yes. Oh, wait. Oh, no, go back. Yes, she has a crown. She doesn't have jewels the way the Veronese woman does, but she is Pharaoh's daughter. She's wearing a satin dress. This is strange. They're holding up the back of her dress for some reason.
Jane, why is there no attempt for Pharaoh's daughter is Egyptian? Why is there no attempt to put them in clothing that would show that their culture and where they, their own culture?
Do we know what their culture looked like?
Yeah, well, I'm sure they weren't dressed like that.
You're
That's
absolutely right.
European.
And that's an absolutely legitimate question. Should the artist make an attempt to paint of the times when the story was written,
Right.
or bring it up to date? I mean, it's the same thing when you see a Shakespeare play. And should people be dressed in Elizabethan clothing or in modern day military clothing, which we see so much of?
If I were to see this painting,
Yeah.
there's a baby there, but I wouldn't say Moses.
No.
Because of the scene and the dress.
And I was gonna ask a couple paintings ago if the bagpipes were correct to the time.
That's a
Because
absolutely,
I was like, did they have bagpipes then? But I just kind of let it slide, so.
absolutely, these are
More
anachronisms.
there.
They're an anachronism.
But it's the same thing about the white Jesus.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
Why would they
Jesus
make
wasn't
him
white
right?
with blonde hair and blue eyes.
Right, so you want to have people be able to relate to it. So you want them to look familiar.
Right.
This makes Moses someone who could appear today in Italy, in probably Venice or Florence, I would guess.
Gentileschi was French, but
Who
he painted in, no, he was Italian, what am I
was
saying?
Italian.
Yeah.
And so
His daughter painted in France.
to have them dressed in weird clothes
Right.
would make the painting foreign to you.
Too foreign, yes.
This makes it something that you
My,
can
my,
relate
my,
to.
my thing is that looking at the painting and not having Jane talk about it, I would never think it was about Moses.
And yeah, what would you think about a baby in a basket? Would that be a trigger that we'd say, oh yeah, maybe this is some odd representation?
But I wouldn't think Moses.
You wouldn't think Moses.
But-
Now you do. And that raises the question about reading art. This is exactly the problems that you can run into. This is why when you go to a museum, it's really nice to have a docent tour, because docents have studied and learned about what is going on in the paintings. Otherwise, you walk by, you look 2 seconds of this and 2 seconds of that, and
Originally, where was this painting exhibited? Was it in a Catholic church?
very good question, and I don't know the provenance of it.
You know, if
I
it
would,
was originally in a Catholic church, then you begin to think of stories of women with babies. And so Moses being rescued from the Nile would be, and depends partly where, if it's in the Louvre, you look at it and you say, God, that's a weird way to paint Moses.
Right.
If you're in St. Peter's,
Then you say,
or the
oh.
Vatican, you say, oh, of course.
right. Okay, let's keep moving. Oh, here we are, folks. This is the star of the show. This is Moses Saved from the River, again by Poussin. Poussin, who you saw the Four Seasons. And tell me what you see here, and tell me if you would, Elisa, if you would know what this is.
Well, the dress, you know, how they're dressed
Yeah.
is, you know, you could associate it more with Moses rather than big gowns with bustles.
Right.
Yeah, I think,
And also, notice, oh, I have a pointer.
The woman in the orange or yellow
Oh,
looks
the
like
pyramids in
Venus.
the back.
She looks like the Venus, the clamshell.
Yes, she does, that pose, a little like.
but there's a pyramid in the back.
Pyramid
The
is the thing that
pyramid
jumps out.
gives you is the hint as to where
Right.
it's supposed to be. And then, so there's a pyramid, but then there's a Roman aqueduct going across.
Well, that's,
Didn't we see that in another painting?
Yes, we did in fact, here.
Right there.
Bridge or aqueduct.
It's a bridge. This one is more likely an aqueduct because of the narrower arches. So, but tell me what else is odd about this?
There's a man who's taken the baby out of the water.
And yes, does he look like bulrushes to you? Do you see any bulrushes here?
Nope.
What's this other man?
And the other man,
Right,
What's he
Yeah, who
about
are
in the
they?
wall?
right.
He looks like a river god.
Dionysian.
a Dionysian, he is a river god. And
Oh.
let's see if I have
It's
it.
fruit or something.
Okay, look at, here he is. He's got a bouquet of flowers to show
flowers,
you
okay.
that he is a benign god. He is not a warlike god. Look at his body. I mean, this is not a young guy. He's a kind of middle-aged or maybe more, a little fleshy here. We know these roles of whatever. And he has on his head a laurel wreath. So he is a god. This man does represent the bulrushes. Odd. It's very odd. This is Poussin's interpretation of this story. So here's the baby. And let's go back to the whole picture. Here's Pharaoh's daughter. Look at the size of this, of one of her maidservants, very small compared to her. She's quite,
She's leaning on her.
she's leaning on her, yes, look at the way her arm is. And this one is gesturing to the baby. All the hands are pointing to the baby.
Right, all the lines.
Yeah. So then again, look at the art involved in this. Look at the sky, how beautifully painted it is, and then the reflection on the water. It just knocks your socks off. It's just some beautiful painting, and the reflection of the arches. Then, as with all in Poussin, life is just going on. These two guys are chatting over here. This guy is pushing off because this is probably the boat that takes people across the Nile. So that instead of a bridge, you know, a ferry. This is a little ferry. So when I first saw this painting, I simply, couldn't believe how cool it was. And I still think it's cool. Okay, let's keep moving because time is going by. All right, this is, again, Moses. Moses, it's a French title, The Infant Moses. And this is by Gustave Moreau, who lived in the 19th century. Infancy and dawn are represented. Radiantly beautiful Moses asleep prior to his discovery in the bulrushes. Okay, so look at this gorgeous painting of Moses. Let's see if I have, yes, here he is.
What are these horn-like things?
All right, I'm glad you asked that question.
Who else did that? No, we know, the statue.
Because Moses is, remember when Moses came down from the mountain having gotten the tablets and the commandments from God, it is said in the Torah, he had a radiant face. And the rays are the way artists interpreted that radiance. You know that the sculpture in Florence of Moses with horns
Right.
was a misinterpretation.
Everyone says horns.
It wasn't horns. It was there were rays of light coming out of his head. Moses was radiant. And so this shows infancy, like the beginning of a story. This is like a sphinx, and these are ruins, and this is like the end of the story for Egypt. This is Moreau's interpretation. So you see it all together here. And all kinds of flowers. If I had done further research, I could have read the language of flowers to you, but you know, there's a limit. I mean, sometime I may identify, because each flower represents something. So, okay, we'll move on. Here is another, here are two images by James Tissot, who was a 19th century artist who did many biblical paintings. This is Moses laid amid he calls it the flags. Talk about bulrushes. Here are the reeds. And Pharaoh's daughter has Moses brought to her. So here's Pharaoh's daughter, her two little handmaids looking peculiar, naked, except for their little things around there. Those look like Egyptian whatevers. In fact, these are supposed to look like Egyptian women. And here's the baby Moses. And here's Moses, look at that face. Only a mother could love.
But at least they look like babies.
They do look like babies, absolutely, more so than any we've seen. And they look scrawny and all arms and legs flying. Yes. Okay. And here's Cecil B. DeMille, The Finding of Moses. This is by Lawrence Alma Tadema. again, late 19th century. The story looks like a still from a widescreen epic with a cast of thousands.
Yeah.
Yes, I love these, they're like Texas bluebells
Yeah.
here. And
But at least there's some black people.
yes, well, these are Egyptians.
Right.
They are the
Makes
Egyptian
sense.
bearers, and that's a little more realistic, isn't it?
Yep.
Lisa, you wanted some
Yes,
accuracy as,
well, yes, this would.
so you would know this was Egypt.
Yes.
Except for Pharaoh's daughter.
Pharaoh's daughter, definitely, but that's a kind of 19th century idea of what, I mean, people saw the hieroglyphics on the Egyptian ruins. They knew what people, how people dressed, or at least
Well, Cecil B. DeMille figured it out.
he did. The guy knew what he was doing. Okay, this is a big one, a fresco. Again, this is in the Sistine Chapel, but this is on the walls, not on the ceiling. Michelangelo did the ceiling. This is by Botticelli, who, as you know, did The Birth of Venus and Springtime and all those beautiful paintings that you see in Florence. So I'll read that. Let's see if we can get a bigger one. Yes, I'll read this for you. Here you have Moses attacking the Egyptian guard. Then we have Moses fleeing when Pharaoh finds out. Here we have Moses pushing away the shepherds who were harassing Jethro's daughters who had brought their sheep to water. And here we have Moses watering the sheep. Up here, we have Moses at the burning bush with God talking to him, saying, Moses, take your shoes off. You are on holy ground. And here he is taking his shoes off.
Wow.
And then here is Moses not leading the people through the Sea of Reeds, but taking the people to Egypt, back to Egypt. I'm not sure why, but anyway, that's how we doing.
Wow.
We have 5 minutes.
I feel a part 2 in our future.
In fact, I was going to say, and because I want to do another one of these, and I want to do it with a lot of Rembrandt. I'm going to show you a little Rembrandt now, but there's just so much art to talk about. Here we have.
Well, not next week, but we'll get it on the budget.
Next year.
Next year. Well, June, 5784? That's in a few weeks. Okay, 2024.
Sometime we'll discuss it. Anyway, here's Moses, and you now see Rembrandt. He's 17th century. Look at the background. I mean, Moses is this supposed to be rocks back here?
Sure.
Let's see if I have it. No, I don't have a blow up of this. But I can just tell you, you look at the Hebrew and you say, wow, was Rembrandt Jewish? How did he know Hebrew like that? He lived in his neighborhood in Amsterdam. His next door neighbor was Jewish and a prominent member of the Jewish community. And they were friends. And in fact, Moses, when his house was having some repairs done, Moses lived in his friend's basement and painted there for,
I think you mean Rembrandt.
what did I say?
Moses.
You can tell I'm getting a little spacey and I'm getting hoarse from all this talking. Anyway, yes, Moses. I should say Rembrandt. Anyhow, let's keep moving because, okay, remember I told you about the radiance? Here he is, the radiance when he's come down from talking to God. This is by Gustave Doré again, the one who did the clothed Adam and Eve. His work is very romantic and dramatic. Okay, and then a few paintings by Rembrandt again. The angel prevents the sacrifice of Isaac. We can talk. I'm going to talk about these more when we do a whole thing on Rembrandt and this type of work. But this is just beautiful stuff, and there's more background in this than Rembrandt does usually. Notice the wood for the fire that Abraham was going to light to sacrifice his son in. And he's dropping the knife because the angel stops his hand. Here, oh, then there are two by Caravaggio that are just knockout. Look at, wait a minute. No.
Go back. One more. There you go.
And look at this sheep, and I'm looking
Yes.
and thinking, wait, how did he paint the nose of that sheep? That is too weird. But in fact, it's a piece of the sheep's horn there. But this is just, again, gorgeous, gorgeous painting.
But Isaac is screaming.
Yes,
Yeah.
in this one, he is screaming as, which seems much more normal than the ones you see with him looking placid and unconcerned when his father's about to slit his throat. Here's another by Caravaggio. This is just so beautiful. Look at the face of this, of the angel. Notice his wings,
Yeah.
and here's the sheep. or
Why
the
is
ram, I
Moses
should
bald
say.
in all of these?
What's that?
Why would Moses be bald in all of these paintings?
He's an old guy. I mean, again, this is probably what the model looked like.
It's Abraham.
They paint, he and all of these people painted from human beings. They had them come in the studio and they painted them. And here, Isaac has a kind of not afraid look, it's just maybe a little wary, like what's going on? Here's the log. So let's see if that's the last one. Oh, okay, this is coming up to what I want to show you, the last one. This is Jacob wrestling with the angel, again by Rembrandt. And here's another Doré, Jacob wrestling with the angel. Now, my favorite one. This will be the last slide.
Uh-huh,
I have to tell you that Gauguin is one of my favorite artists.
yeah.
And when I was in graduate school, I wrote my graduate paper on this artist. So I just love his work. Okay, this is called The Vision After the Sermon, which these women have just come out of church. And the priest or the minister gave a sermon about Jacob wrestling with the angel. It's also called Jacob struggling with the angel. Now, let's see, do I have, no. Okay, so what do we have here? We have a separation between these women,
Mhm.
and you see that the separator is this bent over tree, and then you have Jacob and the angel on a completely red, mostly red background. This is very revolutionary kind of painting because you have distance represented, but without perspective. There's no 1 or 2 point perspective going on here. So just briefly, Gauguin had been married to a Danish woman. He was a banker. He had 5 children. And at some point, and he had started drawing kind of in young middle age and decided he wanted to be an artist. So he left his wife, or she left him because he left his job at the bank. And so he was not earning any money. And there was the wife and 5 children to feed, and there was no way to do that. So he left them, that was one of his bad things. He did a lot of bad things in his life, but he was a fabulous painter. We having a fire drill?
This is unscheduled, so this is a great place for us to
I
stop.
think we have to stop. Yes, in fact,
But you said it was the last slide,
it
so,
is. This is the end.
Okay,
Go
everyone.
to the parking lot right now?
We're gonna take a field trip down to the parking lot and help our preschoolers exit. For those of you that are online, we apologize for the abrupt ending. We will see you all real soon. Thanks, everyone.